Hello, everybody. How are you? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Anthony Citro. I have been a healer and spiritual facilitator for many years, and I do have many videos on YouTube, which I did with the Bridge of Truth on various aspects of the ascension process and the different aspects of the energies of creation, source energy, and how to connect with them more easily for the average person, for anyone, and to help us all move forward in our ascension process. Many of the videos have been around for many years, all leading up 2009, 10, 11 to 2012, the ascension proper, and then beyond that. And I took a break sort of for a while to regroup and figure out what I wanted to do. And recently, of course, because of the lockdown, I think initially or essentially, we're all sort of being tasked, or those of us who hold light or are light workers, to do something, rather than post selfies. So the food we cook, which I do too as well, because I'm Italian, I like to cook. Anyway, that's the physical plane. And the spiritual plane, for those of you who may have seen a lot of the videos that I've done, I'll list them below, and you can, put my name in or my channel's name, which is Ascension Light Source, and also go to my website, ascensionlightsource.com, which I'll put in the description below. And you can, there's many videos there and interviews and talks that you can avail yourself of free, of course, and just soak in as much as you want information. For me personally, my journey has been one for many years from reading. I was reading cards when I was 6 years old. I mean, I just had that bent, and it just built from there. And, becoming 58 in a few months and being quarantined here and looking back on my life, as we all are, I think one of the great things about this quarantine thing is it's putting a stop on all of us especially those of us in big cities, because I'm obviously in New York, well, Brooklyn I live, but mostly work and tool around in New York, obviously, is to take stock in some way or another energetically, because you sort of have to. As David Icke says, sort of like we're in mass house arrest on some level. And, were you going to make that positive or negative? I always like to make things positive if I can. So, but I've always been sort of a loner and isolated and sort of spiritually bent and focused on the bigger mystery, the bigger picture. Because in my life, I have what we will say touched God a number of times, where it has impacted me and affected me to a great degree that I said, my God, all of us should be having more of this, and we should be helping more people achieve it rather than suppressing that and oppressing that. And one of the things I found, anyway, my opinion for my money, is religion itself is the antithesis of that. It actually purports to do that, but it actually suppresses that. And, it says, my way is the right way. My book is the right book. My headdress is the right headdress. My God is the right God. My gurus are, you're wrong and I'm right. So it's all about separation. It's all about control of the masses. It's all about ritual, which is ego. And all of that. It's the old way, I call the old way. And what I want people to understand through this video, particularly here, if you stick with it or come back to it, or share it, which you're welcome to do. Please do. Any who may be interested, please share it to them, is to understand we're in transition from the old to the new. And so we're right in the midst of this upheaval, sort of like, think of yourself in the eye of a hurricane, and all around you is swirling the hurricane. If you can keep yourself in the eye, you'll always be calm as the hurricane's moving forward. You'll always be centered. You always have, the sun shining up in the cloud. But as soon as you veer into or be back into that hurricane, the maelstrom, the cows are flying, and, the trucks are whirling around, and logs are hitting you and all that stuff. So I liken it to that, and it could be likened to a vortex. And the vortex we're talking about here is source to source direct energy. and how you can attain that more consciously. And as you attain it more consciously, you therefore affect consciously your surroundings. And this should be the goal of spirituality, not what religion is, to separate and divide and to cultify into one camp as opposed to everybody else. To try to push forward some dogma or some oppression of women or homophobia or whatever it is. And so that's the difference between spirituality and religion. Can the two marry? I don't believe so myself, but there are people who do and that still are attached to religion, and that's fine. As Satya Sai Baba, my guru, has said, if you're going to be in religion, do it good. Be a good one, good religious person. And so my point I'm trying to make initially here in this video is that my journey, as a lot of our journeys, led me through a series of intense experiences, initiations, activations, workshops, all kinds of teachers and experiences and books and all that a lot of us go through to get to a place where I was like, Italian that I am, basta, fini, enough. Remember that old commercial? There's got to be a better way, Harry, there's got to be a better way. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. A lot of getting in touch with the law of attraction, Esther Hicks, who I consider the greatest channel on the planet, Abraham, of course, many of you know, and how she cuts through all the fat and continually hones home the point of focusing on what you want as opposed to what you don't want, positive as opposed to the negative, calling it in simply and easily, don't make it harder, all this kind of stuff. And the cutting edge of this, the leading edgeness of that. And so I made a commitment to find that for myself and to do that and to help others do that as best I could, whoever would listen, whoever has eyes to see and ears to hear. And so on my journey, as many things, unfolded, as for a lot of us, twists and turns and so forth, I came upon my teacher, Derek O'Neill. That's him behind me in the poster there. He's always over my shoulder, by the way. And when I met him and I recognized him as my teacher, things started to shift for me. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So I was ready. I was at my lowest point in my life, and a dear friend who's also with him and one of my colleagues said to me, you got to come see this guy, Derek O'Neill. And I said, oh, light bulb went off. I said, sure. And the next day I met him, and the rest is history. I wasn't one of these people that, necessarily wanted a teacher or was into all that. But the thing is, he's so antithesis of what a teacher is, because he is a real teacher. He's like, don't give me your power, enough of me own. He's Irish, so he talks like that. And he was all about similar, the law of attraction energy was cutting through the fat, cutting to the truth. His whole motto is more truth will set you free. And so, going to Ireland, where he's based every year in intensive retreats with, a number of the same people, colleagues, growing stronger each year in our mission to bring love and light to the planet. And, the healing modalities and all that came through, I became more and more inured to this process of cutting out the fat. And so that indeed is what part of the ascension process is. Many of you here know what the ascension process is, but I'm going to be talking to the mean average audience here, because some people may be experienced light work, or some people may not know what the hell I'm talking about. So please, there's no patronizing, there's no superiority. I'm just trying to help everybody get a clearer understanding and how to apply the energies and the teachings to affect daily change. And so you come to a space where you don't want to waste or put your energy into something that's not productive. It's like blowing up an aero bed. It gets fully blown up, and then you keep blowing it up thinking it's going to get firmer, but actually the excess air just keeps blowing out and you're just wasting time. So it's that kind of thing. The other thing that I always pointed out in my workshops, and I want to bring to your attention, whoever's listening, is, think of these exercises I'm going to give you as a spiritual gym. And, when you go to the gym and you work out and your body gets toned and buff, which I definitely need to do, uh, by the way, you have to maintain that rigorously or you start to lose it. When you develop your spiritual muscle, so to speak, quote unquote, you never lose that. The spiritual muscle memory, you never lose that. It's always there. It always is embedded in you on a cellular level, which is why you go to these teachers and these workshops and initiations to activate on a deeper level than the average person would, how to access and hold light on some level. And so you go through a process of detoxifying as you would if you, any detoxification level. And, initially it's painful and strong and struggling, and you reach the dark night of your soul and you deal with parts of yourself you don't want to deal with, which is why a lot of people initially resist the spiritual path. And so as I developed and went through so much upheaval internally and trauma and looking at myself and dealing with stuff that I never would or want to deal with, and most people try to run away from, myself included. As my teacher held my feet to the fire, so to speak, I developed a stronger ability to hold light and stay in light no matter what was going on. And of course, his teacher is Satya Sai Baba as well. And the Sai Baba, he always says the difference between two pains is happiness, and the difference between happiness is two pains. And, Sai Baba always talked about equanimity being the same no matter if your husband or wife died or you won $1 million, it's the same reaction. Now, of course, that's an ideal. But the point was detachment, compassionate detachment, conscious awareness leading to conscious awareness, and so forth. And as I more and more got into it and took me more and more light, I started to get my own downloads, my own channelings coming through, and my own abilities and my own natural bent increased so much that it was overwhelming and scary at first, which it can be. But again, I had a great teacher, I had a great system, I had amazing initiations and activations, and I had a lot to support me, whether I was aware of it or not at the time. And so my whole thing was, my God, this is like in a candy store, to feel that, there were times when we were in these workshops gathered. And of course, when you're gathered, there's a lot of strong, powerful light beings who hold in light, and you're calling in this powerful energy and it's infusing within you. Major seeming miraculous things happen. It's hard to kind of explain, but it's really, can affect you in a great level. And all you want to do is say, my God, I wanted to experience that all the time. Of course, that's when you're in bliss, but you're here on the physical. We come to, as my teacher jokingly says, we come here to have sex and cheesecake. You come here to learn, Source separated himself from himself to love himself more. That's the big, great mystery. God separated himself from himself to know himself more. That's the big bang on the physical plane. That's the mystery of life. And so you come and you reincarnate to learn more and grow and return to Source and come and grow. At the end of the day, it's all one big soupçon of Source, I like to say. It's all one thing. But we get focused in the physical here, in this miraculous physical body that we have. And we have, we're dealing with all this stuff going around us, largely negative. And so I said to, Source and to the lads, as my teacher Derek calls them, the lads, the masters, whatever you want to say. There's them on the wall there. They're all up. They're always around me. And I said, look, if I'm going to do this work, I can't go through all this old bullshit ritual, hours and hours of invoking this and doing that. I want the real thing, in your face, no bullshit, no nonsense. I want to help people attain that, because it's the only way the average person, the mainstream, if you will, is going to adopt it, because not everybody is inured or has the karmic history of being shamans in other lifetimes and wants to recreate that now and wants to sage for hours and beat drums for hours or whatever it is, And I recognized as the ascension was heating up and approaching to 2012, and things were breaking apart. The old ways were breaking apart and shifting, and more I studied and more I got involved in everything, I recognized that the only way to connect was simply to connect. And so I asked, and then it came, and I was grateful and lucky enough to channel these amazing modalities of violet flame irradiation, Mahatma fusion therapy. And I've been helping many people, and I've had, for well over, 10, 12, maybe 15 years, have done workshops until recent, the last couple of years, like almost every week, sometimes twice a week. I was so burnt out because it was so much, but at the time it was needed. And there was an audience for it, and so I did my best. And then I got hooked up with Al Leon, who's from the Bridge of Truth. It's another great channel, which you may want to check out on YouTube here, the Bridge of Truth. And we created these videos, and it all just came together. And thousands and thousands of people are still watching them and benefiting from them, and that's great, And we put it out there. We recognized that it was an offering of love, that we would have to invest a lot of time, energy, and money, and there was no return except that people were going to enjoy them and, hopefully pass them along, and it would pay it forward of itself. So we worked very hard on those. And now with this new experience of the COVID-19 and the era of the age of Trump, dare I mention him in this video, and all that's going on and unfolding, that seems quite like ridiculous, really, but it's really happening in real time. And then being quarantined, as we all are quarantined now. When you're quarantined, the great thing is you're made to take stock. If you have any kind of sense of consciousness or wanting to help humanity in any way, you take stock of what can I do now? How can I pray? How can I affirm? What can I do? Besides, pass out food and or make masks or whatever, which is great. But what can I do beyond that in a consciousness term? And so, I decided, well, I was guided to do these videos, another series of videos, ascension alignment updates, I call them, on the various main aspects of source energy, so people can get a bigger picture understanding of what it is and what's going on and why we're going through what we're going through, so that they can then affect change. And then an explanation of the technique, simple technique, and how to call them in, how to do it, so they have a real clear sense and understanding of what to do or what not to do, so it's not confusing. And then another video to actually do an invocation that they can do over and over again daily. And so I'm going to be doing probably 3 parts of Violet Flame, 3 parts of Mahatma Energy, and some of the higher rays in this series of videos, which I'll be posting and sharing in the coming days and weeks online while we're all, in quarantine. And I encourage you to, save them to your list, share them to people that may want them, that I don't know how to share spiritual pages, or people that may be interested. Again, go to my website and, see what you may want to do. Beyond that, in a deeper sense, there's also many videos on YouTube of all the energies that you can Google that are wonderful, that pure intention. The only thing I would admonish you is to find videos that keep you simply, easily, effortlessly in touch, source to source, and don't go this long, drawn-out ritual. You don't have to say Violet Flame, 144 times for it to work. It's not like that anymore. And so in this first video, 1 of 3, I want to give you the overview and the bigger picture of how all this came about, why we're here, what it means now, and so that you understand what the role of the Violet Flame. The second video, which I may post tomorrow or soon after that, is an explanation of the technique of how to invoke it and all that's behind that, so you get that clear and out of the way. And then soon after that, we'll do an invocation, and that is something that you can do all the time, daily, if you want to follow it, put it on MP3 or however it works. I'm not too technically savvy, but you could figure that out, and share that. Keep sharing if you want, please. Appreciate that. And then so I couldn't do it all in one video is the point I'm trying to make. So we're here. So I explained to you that as a lot of people, I came on this journey up through to the Ascension 2012 and met my teacher and got initiated and did all these activations that a lot of us professional light workers do, or people that are invested in helping others attain more light consciousness. And in the meantime, of course, I'm working and doing things and living in 3D like everybody else, navigating the realities of life and etc., landlords and all that. So, after my break and then now being in this quarantine, I really got the strong hit to come back into the fray. A lot of people have always asked me, can you write books about the energies, all this, and I really don't want to get into that. I have no patience to write. I'm a very good writer, but I have no patience to write and rewrite and all that. And now we're in the age of the video and the social media and the immediacy of that, and that's what I'm all about. Now, just because I say simple, easy, hands-on, practical approach doesn't mean not valuable or lazy or anything like that. Quite the opposite. It means cutting through the fat, the old ways, the old mirrors of how we think we need to do things. Because what I'll start with is the understanding that when you have, whether it's church, whether it's shamanistic, whether it's whatever practice you do that's very involved and ritualistic and all that, that has a history karmically going back many, many lifetimes and generations. And the planet was denser at the time. There were less people involved in holding light strongly, saints, avatars, etc., witch doctors, whatever you want to say, for others as well as themselves. And the planet was a darker space. So as these individuals incarnated, a lot of them were sacrificed or burnt at the stake or whatever as heretics and all that. And they had to go through that hard karma, but they left behind a stronger application of light that made the planet a little lighter, a little lighter, a little lighter, even though there was war with the dark always. So the planet was denser. And so you needed to invoke, and you needed to, beat the drums for hours, and you needed to do all that stuff with the sound at Stonehenge and at a certain time of day and night and a certain hour with the sun coming through the thing and all that. Because that was, you needed that because the vibration of the planet was so dense. And you needed that to raise the vibration. As we've come into the ascension, more and more, that's less and less needed. And it's less and less needed in shorter time frames. So it's from the 80s when Brian Grattan with the Mahatma and Elizabeth Clare Prophet with her Violet Flame that really were tasked in that generation to start encoding fully all of that information out there to people. It was very dense and very involved and all this stuff. And even back, that was just the 80s, I guess 40 years ago. And since then, it's been streamlined consciousness and energy and light coming in. And so all of those applications that people still are attached to because they were so popular and well known are no longer necessary. So again, it's like, I may have said this in this video, I can't remember, or in other videos. When you have an air mattress, and you blow up the mattress firm, and you get as firm as you want. You say, I'm going to keep blowing it up just to get extra firm. But it can't blow up anymore. What happens? The excess air flows out, and you think you're just standing there hoping that it's going to get firmer. But it can't get any firmer. It's as firm as it's going to get. You're just wasting time, and this excess energy is flowing out till eventually you stop blowing it up, and it's firm as it was, it's going to be. And so, you don't need to beat a dead horse of saying, like, for instance, with the Violet Flame, it used to be where Elizabeth Clare Prophet would sort of, say, oh, you got to say more Violet Fire 144 times, because 12 times 244 and all, just to get it activated. And that's a one minor example, but you don't have to do that anymore. We're at the time now, and so many light workers have focused and held energy and held light to bring the vibration of the planet to such a space, even though the dark is still fighting and the war is still going on and the chaos is still in transition to a golden age. We're still in that space. So sometimes it seems like nothing's working, but it actually is. Where you just have to say, I am presence, please be present. And it's there. You know, the reason prayer doesn't always work is because prayer comes from a place of fear. Oh my God, please. So again, law of attraction, you're focusing on what you don't want, what's negative, what's lacking. Oh my God, please let him live. Please let her, please let me get this money. Please let me. And what you're doing is you're actually pushing away the very thing, except for the compassion of a benevolent source that's trying to help you, that may once in a while step in and answer, quote unquote, your prayer. But most prayers aren't answered at the most extreme because people are an extremist, and the law of attraction is law of attraction. It's universal, and it's non-judgmental. And it, you know, even though why does God let a baby fall out of a second floor window or suffer in Syria or whatever, it's all part of the big picture. It's all, I don't want to say fair. That's a kind of odd thing, the way to put it, but it's all part of karma unfolding. And so prayer coming from a place of fear usually doesn't work. In prayer coming from a place of intention and allowing works, or it works better, because ascension, you know, I've mentioned ascension. A lot of you know what ascension is. For those of you who don't, it's just an umbrella term to meaning evolution into light, more full light, more love, more higher vibration, more consciously, more people all the time. So it's less of the old and more of the new. Now, of course, there's resistance with that. And there is back and forth with that till it actually starts to unfold. Nothing's ever perfect except when you're with Source. Source is perfect, right? And Source itself is always unfolding. So the point is that you don't have to go through hoops and hollers and whistles and bells to connect with Source anymore. And that has been that's the first caveat of my work, and I've tried to do. And I've gotten a lot of resistance for it in certain quarters because a lot of light workers are still stuck in the old energies and the old ways. But even shamans in South America, that their whole being is this ancestral invocation and all this stuff that they grew up with, that's a strong part of who they are, as opposed to something they're just taking on to try to raise energy. Even they have been known to invoke the Mahatma energy in their opening ceremonies, which amazed me when I found out about it, certain ones that were very open and wise, because they recognized Mahatma as just the divine feminine returning. So, you know, and that's fine. So again, the point I'm trying to make too is no matter what you're doing now, whatever your spiritual practice is, whether it's religious based, whether it's old kind of ritual type things or whatever, everything is valid as long as it doesn't make you attached to it and say this is right and everything else is wrong. Because right away then you're putting a wrench in the works, and you're getting into judgment, and you're in the space of ego, and you're blocking the very thing you want. Again, back then in the old days, ancient days, they had to invoke and raise energy over and over and over again. You know, sage itself, which is still effective to burn, of course, sage was used because it hung in the air in the outside sky-clad ceremonies, and it is purification, has purification properties. Today, you don't need to burn sage. It's nice to burn it. It does help, but it's not necessary. That's my point. You know, nothing's really necessary except source to source. Acceptance that I am presence, please be present. I am that I am. I am that I am means I am that I am. You are one with Source, and Source is one with you. And it's our separation from that, our long lifetimes and eons of separation from that, and now in this one lifetime, having to come back smack dab into that, and who's going to accept that, who's not, that's where the problem lies, or that's where the the chaos lies. And we see a lot of it reflected in politics and all kinds of things around us in the physical world. But again, if you're in that eye of that storm, of the hurricane, you're always safe. You can keep going along wherever the hurricane's going and be in that and see the sun through the clouds on top, and you can just be calm, and no matter what's swirling around you. As soon as you veer into that hurricane proper, you're going to see the logs flying, the cows, flying all around, the trucks hitting you, until you come back into that source, that center, that vortex. And that vortex that's important is source to source energy. And invoking and calling the energy of creation, whatever aspect of it is what is going to keep you more and more in alignment and health and immunity raising and freedom from dis-ease, disease, protection from the virus and everything else, as much as possible, unless you have a strong karmic imprint to experience something for some reason, whether it's death or accident or whatever. But even then, that can be ameliorated or softened or whatever. And of course, we never know what that is technically, consciously, right? Till it happens. You could also be preventative. You can connect with the energies of creation as preventative medicine. If your karma allows it, or you as you evolve, you make better choices. And so the point I'm making too here is the rapidity of your evolution, your evolvement spiritually in this one lifetime, in this one frame time, and especially now with this opportunity we have of being quarantined to take stock spiritually, is really a gift if you implement it fully. And you could think and pray on it and write about it and all this journal, and that's great. But what I'm trying to get people to do, no matter what other aspect or practice they do, is to more and more continually invoke and align with and allow the energy of creation into their being. And you will see over time doing that how it affects great change. Now, the next video, when I explain about the technique behind it and all of that stuff, I will put a link to the introduction video I did many years ago. I think 2011 was, we filmed it, on how to call in the energies. And I encourage you to watch that if you haven't, because it explains, it was channeled in the moment. So it was very channeled, and it explains how to do that in a stronger method. But now things are different, even from 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago. Things have rapidly sped up and we're faced with a different reality. And so I wanted to sort of come from the perspective of now on how to move forward now. And so to do that, if you want to do it, first we have to step back and see the bigger picture. My teacher Derek always says, before you take a step forward, you have to run back and then you take a leap forward. And this quarantine we're in is sort of that David Icke calls it a mass house arrest, but it's sort of like, if you look at it from the positive, an opportunity to do that, to take that step back before we step forward and purify. And you can do that like I did my spring cleaning, got rid of everything I didn't need, cleaned everything. You can do that on that level. And that's a mirror in one part of you. But what I'm encouraging through this video is to get a clearer picture of the bigger picture of what's going on. And so all the stuff that's leading me and other people up to this point of where we are now in 2020 and what we're dealing with, and in this space of quote unquote quarantine, to take stock, is what does it all mean, from a highest spiritual perspective. And indeed, what it means is to do that, to take the time to take stock, to decide, I want to do this as opposed to that, to be clear about it. Because when all this is quote unquote over, or this phase is over until the next crisis happens, we can strengthen both collectively and individually as a group in consciousness. And that's what's happening even in the most practical of arenas, because people are realizing we're all one. We all, we all have to help each other. We all are in the same boat. The greed, corporate greed's got to go. Yada yada yada. So it is happening, but the density of people and the average person in their consciousness, even though the ascension is unfolding and happening and prodding us, and now we're in a real, oh, this is it. It's happening now. We can't escape this. Can't put it off. We're here, we're quarantined, people are dying, we can't see our loved ones, all this yada yada. It's really happening, it's really unfolding. It's not just, it'll happen in another generation or to my children or whatever, and I'm just going to hold light and then go about my business and meditate and, and be like spiritual in a commune. No, those days are over, gone, fini, basta. Even hermits, there's no hermit in a cave in the wood. I might be a hermit, but I'm still in the world. I'm still coming to you, whoever's listening. It may be one person, it may be a million, or anything in between, and offering, connection, offering help. So all that being said, and you can find out more about me if you're interested. It's not about me, but I understand people need to understand where things are coming from. And so that's why I want to tell you a little about where I'm coming from. And anyone who's a serious light worker, in terms of spiritual, of helping people attain more light, not just a new age guru that's packaged and branded. They're wonderful. They have their thing going. I don't have that persona. I never was able to attain that. And it's not that I didn't want more success. I didn't want to be a packaged person with perfect teeth, perfect smile, oh, buy my book and, your life is going to change. No, that's bullshit. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to offer something real. And of course, when times are better, I had to have a thriving healing practice and workshops and all that. I had that for a long time. But, it's not about fame. This is, we got to get beyond all that. If anybody's successful, they're successful, God bless them, The point is, you shouldn't take anybody's book or word for it over your own experience of it. It's like Derek always says every time he says something, don't take my word for it, experience it for yourself. Try it for yourself and you see this is my truth. So I'm saying to you that from my perspective, the energy of creation is energy of creation. It's universal. There's no somebody that could come on here and make a comment and say, oh, that doesn't exist. It does exist. It just is. I don't make it up. I didn't create the Mahatma energy. I didn't create the violet flame aspect energy. I didn't create, light. I'm part of it just like anybody else, unless I choose to hide that light. And then I become darker until I get lighter. So, we're all coming to this point. So I wanted to give an overview so people understand the bigger picture of what's going on. And the bigger picture of what's going on is that there's, source energy is just source energy. It just is. We as humans need to delineate, need to define, need to characterize so we can get our minds clear and try to get a handle on it. Of course, effulgence, light, you can't get a handle on. God is beyond our comprehension, beyond our description, which is why we don't access our whole brain. Because if we accessed our full brain, we would be so of God, we wouldn't be able to sustain physicality. And that's why we only use a certain portion of our brain. Geniuses and higher vibrations use maybe a little more than the average person. But my point of view is anybody can open to that. And the more you open up to invoking the energies, the more that happens for you over time, in whatever degree is good or right for you. And there's no right or wrong. There's no rushing it. There's no belaboring it. It just is. It's about a flow of allowing more and more source energy to inform you, to uplift you. Think of it as your spiritual lifeline. I always call the energy of creation as your spiritual lifeline. So we as humans need to delineate, to understand what source energy is, to try to make some sense of it. So even at the high, we have the ultraviolet light spectrum, the light spectrum, the primary colors, blue, yellow, green, red, violet. And, science delineates violet as ultraviolet as one of the highest vibrations of that light. Of course, there's some higher that we can't see. And so spirituality mirrors everything in the physical. And so spiritually, it's the same thing. And so it's come to, through trial and error, through channelings, through teachers of the past and so forth, up into the present. And mind you, remember, everything's happening so much more rapidly. 200 or 300 years ago, it was happening every 50 years, a little breakthrough would happen. Every 70, 80 years, another breakthrough or person would happen, or Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky, or this one would come up. But now, every year almost, every 5, sometimes, during the ascension, every 3 weeks, some new modality was coming out, some new energy, some new thought, some new leading edge experience was happening. So everything's rapidly shifting, which is why it's important to just focus on the simple, easy application of the pure, basic, light source of the energy into your being and connecting with that, which that's what you are, and not getting caught up in all the hoopla and all the this way is right and that teacher's right and this guy I like better and this. None of that matters. And so cutting all that fat out. It's not to dishonor the Brian Grattons and the Lucifer prophets of the past. They had their role to play. And they played it, and they had their karma to unfold, and they put the computer out there. And now it's just like when you go to a computer, you only ask for the data you need. You don't ask for the whole program, but it's there. And so it's the same thing with source energy. Source energy is there. It's all around us. It is us. You are it. Right? But we are focused in the physical, dense body for a purpose, reincarnated purpose, for whatever that is. To learn, to grow, to experience. Actually, to anchor light in some way or another, whether that's through a relationship, twin flame relationship, whether that's through stewarding children into the world, whether that's a practice, books, the great authors, the great actors, the great artists, all that, when you're touched and moved, that's all channeled, and of course, there's always somebody that will dislike or disagree. There's always going to be a naysayer. But the point is, on average, that's all channeled, and that's why you're so moved and affected by it, because it touched you on a spiritual level. And so we delineate the energies of creation. We have undifferentiated source. So here we're getting into the meat of this video. After all my talking and blabbering, I just wanted to lead up. Hopefully, some of you stuck with me. And now we're getting into the nitty gritty of this video. So I got to see where it is so I could tell people where to, if they want to not listen to the other part, re-listen. Anyway, I digress. So undifferentiated source, we can say undifferentiated source means just source is bliss, heaven, whatever you want to say. And as source delineates and comes down, if you will, as a metaphor, into the different dimensions and into the physical. Just like the regular light spectrum scientifically, we see the primary colors leading up to the violet light and how that affects things. It's the same mirrored in source. In fact, that is a mirror of what's real as source. Everything's a mirror. Everything's one, right? So it's easy to say that, but when you realize that in terms of real source energy, that's when you're like, oh, that's when the miracle happens, and you see the saint statues like that, and the beatification, and all this. That's all that miracle happens, that energy, that upliftment, because the consciousness is opening to that instead of closing to that. Everything in our life is designed to close us off from that out of fear. That's been the paradigm and the pattern for so long. And so in a short time span, those of us who are serious light workers in this lifetime, getting prepared for the golden age of light, which is yet to come, fifth dimensional, unconditional love, conscious living, we're in the midst of that change and upheaval. So I always say those of us who are light workers are going to be like Moses. We're going to get to the promised land, but in this lifetime, we probably won't cross over in the promised land before we pass and go up to source, because our role, our karma, is to heal, just like Grattan and Elizabeth Clare's prophet was to clear their egoistic karma by bringing in that strong elements of the Mahatma and the violet flame. Our light worker karma is to help people get to the place where they can then experience more and more the golden age of light. We burn off our karma, and then we end up coming back some other point, some other time, and enjoying the golden age of light. But we get, like Moses, the ability to see the burning bush, to touch the commandments, if you will. You know, I use that as a metaphor. I'm not religious at all, but spiritually, it's the same thing. You know, we get to experience it directly, whereas the average person doesn't yet, as much as they can. But we can lead them to that. We can lead them to the Exodus, through the Exodus, to that, to take as much mana from heaven as they can. And their generation will pass on and pass on and pass on. So we're in that, that's where we're at. So don't think of an end game, as you know, as Esther Hicks always says, the journey, Abraham always channels through her, you're never going to get to the ending. So enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. And that's similar what's going on. So then you have the Mahatma. So you have what we call the Mahatma. And the Mahatma is really just our perception of the highest, clearest light of God that we as humans can perceive, other than undifferentiated source itself, which we can't perceive until we are it. So again, it's easier to think in terms of it coming down from source into the dimensions, into the more closer to the physical realms, into the physical realm, affecting you, creating you. You come from that, focusing in you for a purpose to move that forward, and aligning with that and being okay with that and allowing that to flow. That's miraculous when you think about it. And if you adapt it and believe it and explore it, and you will, the more you feel it, because it is what it is. How it comes in form doesn't have to be woo-woo, or it doesn't have to be, scientific. It could be a combination of both. Don't forget, quantum physics is unfolding, and all kinds of nano DNA stuff. Everything's, even scientifically, is shifting. And the understanding of alternate realities, and what they're really saying is opening to the dimensions, but scientists are not ready to accept that. So they try to make it more manly and scientific and practical, that they can understand as alternate reality somehow, or the alternate universe makes more sense than interdimensionality. And that's okay. That's where everybody's at right now. But the point is, things are opening rapidly. So rather than focus on trying to scientifically delineate and control the definition of what it is, connect with the flow and truth of what it is for your betterment. And this is my mission, and a lot of light workers' missions in one way or another, should be. And so you have undifferentiated source, then you have the Mahatma. Again, Mahatma is the clearest light of source that we as humans can perceive and touch, other than source itself. And then from the Mahatma, you have what's generated, what we call the violet flame, which, similar to the violet light in the physical spectrum of light, has a very highest vibration and it has its purpose. As the source energy differentiates and delineates, it assumes a purpose specific to spiritual evolution, which then you connect with, or you just go, it helps you in some way or another unconsciously, right? So you have the violet flame from the Mahatma, which undergirds everything. And that the violet flame is that aspect of source which constantly transmutes all that is no longer in alignment, and allows you to raise vibration with that which is in alignment. From the creation of the galaxies and cosmos, where you see, supernova destructions and rebirths of civilizations, all the way down to everything within you. For the physical being, for us in physical form, it works on the cellular level, which is why it's so important, especially now in the age of COVID, to address and align with, to help you fight and prevent and the disease and from receiving, or even if it does to lessen the effect of COVID or any disease. And so you have that. And then as source energy, we understand that because we're reaching, we're asking for the Mahatma, we're asking for source energy. And as we help allow that aspect of source energy, the violet flame, to help us heal, that's what that is. It all comes from that. That's how we perceive it as light workers, as physical beings. And that's why we say, this is the violet flame, this is the Mahatma. But at the end of the day, it's all source energy anyway. But as humans, we can only absorb so much at one time, otherwise we would bust. Many of you know, and I myself have had experience of being in these workshops where, Derek will bring in just 3% of what he could bring in, and you feel like you're going to blow up. So, and I'm sure many of you have been in those situations who are light workers in your workshops, or serious teachers who are able to connect a group to concentrated source energy coming in. It really affects you. Particularly the violet flame at the cellular level affects the regeneration and the removal of karma and negativity and debris and dis-ease, which is why I want to address it in these videos. And the Mahatma brings in the ascension, the acceleration, the enhancement of the ascension process at a more rapid rate, which is, again, the more positive, more light. Oh, give me more, give me more, give me more. Raise me up, raise me up, raise me up. I won't even get any of this. So, and I'll become more lighter and more light-filled, etc. And that will help others in whatever way it's going to help. Whether you're a janitor, whether you're a nurse, whether you're an actual professional light worker, whether you own a business consciously, whether you're just a mother in a family that's trying to raise conscious boys and even girls to be better people. It doesn't matter what your role is. It's all important. Teachers who are very undervalued, I'm talking about school teachers who are very undervalued and who have a prime responsibility of, through example and through spending a lot of time with children to affect their future. So you have the undifferentiated source, then you have the Mahatma level, you have the violet flame undergirding and overlaying everything, constantly burning. That's why we call it a flame, because its effect on our physical being is to burn away negative karma, to raise cellular vibration, which prevents and eases disease. And so that's why it's important to consciously invoke. It will help you. See, I have my little violet flame hat on, violet flame jacket over there. See it on the wall. My friend Georgia, who's a great artist, and I could point to it right, it's over here. The violet flame on the wall. So I always have the violet flame around me, the crystals, everything. And in the next video, when I talk about the technique of how to invocate, I will describe more about that. But again, I want to do this overview. So what else are we missing in this picture besides us in this physical dimension? As source energy becomes more and more closer to us, and we become closer to it in terms of consciousness, the light spectrum that we see that delineates in the physical primary colors also delineates in the spiritual. And we perceive it as what we call the divine rays of creation. And there are 12 primary divine rays. There's always more. There's always somebody that says the violet flame has a silver element, or this one has another vibration, or the platinum right here. But my whole thing is to focus on the essential, the basic essence of each light, the basic essence of each aspect of source, so you can easily connect, tap in through color, light, feeling, sense, vibration, and just holding it will affect you, let alone flowing with it out with intention to help heal somebody, or to see the planet surrounded in light and help the planet, whatever. And so those 12 divine rays of creation are the primary rays, and they have their focus. The first ray, red ray of motivation, the second blue ray of love, the yellow ray of clarity, the third ray, the fourth ray of green, fifth ray of healing and science, where all the healing modalities come through. The sixth ray, which is the indigo ray, which is the ray of devotion, and that is where we are coming from. The seventh ray is the ray of the beginning of the new age, the violet, with the violet flame is house, where Saint Germain is so important and impressive in. And Saint Germain and all his journey is very good too, if you want to explore that, because you'll understand more his role throughout various incarnations of bringing forth now, but he's very prevalent now in the hierarchy of the violet flame and the angelic and the masters, etc. And so the violet flame, you can get into all of that, but that's how we perceive it. At the end of the day, it's energy. Everything's energy. So just focus on that violet color, feeling the flame, sensing the energy, connecting with that energy simply, easily, and effortlessly. And that's what you need. That's what's important. No matter how much you want to see, holy amethyst, which is one of the hierarchy of the violet flame. You want to see her, good, in your visualization. That's great, but it's not necessary. That energy is there. You know what I mean? You want to see Archangel Zadkiel, great. You want to see Saint Germain, wonderful. I'm very strong relationship with Saint Germain, and he's always present with me, and I have a great connection with him. But I don't focus on Saint Germain. I focus on the energy. I may call him to help me, or I know his energy is always present. But I don't. Again, that's where it gets into the woo stuff, where you lose a lot of people. And so I don't really like to focus on that. If you want to explore that and you want to inure yourself with that, great. That's fine. But at the end of the day, no matter how much the energy is what's important. Connecting with the energy consciously through intention is what's important in terms of growing and ascending and being beneficial to yourself and the planet in some way. So then you have the higher rays, 8 through 12, 8 being the green violet, and the colors start to marry and delineate physically, but also, and as you become adept at connecting with the energy, you will see these colors. And if you're colorblind, you don't see colors, you will feel the color. You will sense the vibration. You will sense the difference. You will feel, and all the workshops I did on all the vibrations and all the videos I have will help you. So if you go to my website and you go to the videos page, there is a tense video for each aspect of what I'm talking about, each ray, Mahatma Violet Flame, that you can do once a month to really incorporate that energy, deeply encode it into your being cellularly, consciously, so that when you go to invoke it daily easily, it's that much easier and that much stronger. The videos I have there, not something you want to do every day because they're too intense. But what I'm going to give you here in these series of videos, and we're going to see it in the invocation and the third one, and explaining the technique in the next one, is a daily application. So you can do it any time, as much as you want. It won't hurt you. It won't overload you. You'll know when to do or not. And you'll build up tolerance. You want to hold the energy for a minute, then 5 minutes, and 15 minutes. You'll feel the difference. There's no, when you get fidgety or it's too much, you just gently come out of it. And the next, it's like anything else, like exercising. Starting the treadmill 5 minutes, then you could build up to 15 minutes, then a half hour. But it takes, my teacher says, be gentle with the creator. You're the creator. There's a saying of co-creation with source. It used to be the old paradigm. Now the new paradigm is creation as source. Full responsibility for the reality you create and that you live, that you are creating. And that's the big leap that a lot of people are still afraid to take because it's very frightening. And a lot of people feel they're not ready there yet. So this simple, easy way that I offer, that's offered through me, I should say. It's never about me. I'm not the doer, you're not the doer. And the sooner you get that, the more your ego's out of the way and the more you can benefit. But for some reason, they picked this Italian schlub from Paterson, New Jersey to do all this light work. Sometimes I look and I go, what the heck? I just want to eat pasta and whatever. But, they have me doing all this crazy stuff. And, it's just my karma. And, part of me loves it, and part of me is like, Jesus, guys, give me a friggin' break. But, it is what it is. And so that prompted me to even more find, say, look, give me the easy, simple way for people to, I want to see, so they have results, they stick with it, they can do it, they see how easy it is. Whether you're a waiter and you want your shift to be great, you call in the Mahatma and say, Mahatma, please help my shift be great, and it is, as opposed to not. Whatever, or this date you're going on, or I joke, you're going to meet a prospective mother-in-law, you want it to go well, whatever. So you have these higher rays, as I was saying, and I want to do a series of videos on the higher rays, especially the eighth ray, because eighth ray is green-violet, and it's about the purification of the soul. So I may do these series, 3 sets of these series, the violet flame, the Mahatma, and eighth ray. But I do have videos on all the rays, and you can get some information on them. There's some conflicting, confusing information out there, which is another reason why I did those videos and whittled everything down to the simplest, easiest science, because there's always somebody that contradicts. In the age of social media, if you say black, there's always going to be somebody that's going to comment white on your feed. And I needed to see what the truth was in terms of feeling it energetically and understanding the essence, the pure basic essence. And anything other than that is gravy. You want to add to that, great, but don't get caught up in all those layers of fluff. Focus, cut through the bullshit, cut through the fat, get to the source, and experience more source consciously. That's the best. That's better than sex, better than anything, when you experience it, because it's who you are. It's what God is, what love is. It's what light is. Of course, a lot of us are still attached to our lower vibrations. It's very hard. And I'm not saying you have to be a priest or a nun, because I'm certainly not. But you can balance it with, again, eating food that's high vibrational, or that's, prayed over, light get filled, is a lot better, and it goes a lot better in your stomach than dense food that's going to make you sick and make you throw up and diarrhea for a week. Sex in a loving relationship with divine connection is unlike anything you'll ever experience than casual crazy sex that's over in 2 minutes and might be exciting for your lower vibration because it stimulates easy, but it doesn't amount to anything. And on and on and on and on. So in all aspects of life. So this way, by connecting with these energies simply and easily, what happens is you more and more allow all these aspects of your life to be fulfilled and easier and more higher and wonderful and great and experience and all that on, and have more light and more love and less disease. Simple as that. And so again, you have the ninth ray goes into the Christ consciousness, connecting to the ray of joy. Then you have the 10th ray, which is the ray of activating the light body. And you have the 11th ray, which is the bridge to the new age, which is so high vibrational. And then, of course, you have the 12th bridge, which is the ray with the golden age of light. Now, of course, that hasn't fully manifested physically on this plane for the majority of people. It doesn't mean the energy, the experience doesn't exist in spirit, doesn't exist as source already, and is not capable of connecting with. So when you connect with that 12th ray, which is, a lot of people don't do. When I used to 12th ray workshop, we were all buzzing like we're in gold, in gold heaven for that time. And it just raises and elevates your vibration and prepares you more to experience directly in your body the effects of what the golden age is now, and to help you align you with that more and more, so it helps direct you more and more towards creating that more and more. Doesn't mean in this lifetime you're going to fully experience bliss every moment. But again, I guarantee you, like Esther Hicks says, Abraham says to her, my guarantee to you is that the more you invoke the energies of creation, the Mahatma, the violet flame, all the divine rays of creation. The more you invoke them, the easier and better your life experience will be, the more profound. If you're an artist, it will inform your art tremendously. And if you're an average person, it will make eating a meal, going to the bathroom, watching TV that much more amazing. I mean, it sounds silly, but every moment is sacred. That's the thing when you connect with the energy of creation, you realize more and more every moment is sacred. And as we're compressed into this quarantine situation where we have to take stock, we are almost forced to make every moment sacred, unless we're going to drown ourselves in, drugs and alcohol and deaden ourselves. On some level, we're connecting. Maybe we're subscribing to Gaia and trying to expand our consciousness and understand higher vibrations, or finding videos on YouTube that are more enlightening. Maybe we're praying more. Maybe we're meditating more. Maybe we're exercising finally more. Maybe we're cleaning our house more and grooming ourselves more. Maybe we're taking care of ourselves better. All these things, because the human condition, and I'll leave you with this in this first meditation, and I hope you will come back and do the others and share this. Each day we think about 66,000 thoughts, and most of that is negative, which, guess what, creates a negative reality. Until we shift that, and it creates a more positive reality, which is why somebody great channel like Esther Hicks is always honing the same message over and over and over and over and over again. Everybody in the hot seat, workshop to workshop, book after book, you can hear it or talk all day, but it's always the same thing, because it takes a long time for people to get it, because we have lifetimes of structure coming in that are unhealed and unresolved that we're attached to. And so the more you allow this light in and connect with that spiritual life on these energy of creation more consciously, just by feeling and experiencing them and holding them in your being and consciously in your physical being, and I'll show you how in the next video, and then in the third video, we're actually going to work with the violet flame more strongly. The more you do that, the more you offset that negative creation naturally in the easiest possible way. Because you could do all the studying you want, all the writing you want, all the seeing teachers you want. But if you don't have a physical connection, physical, spiritual, lifeline connection of actual feeling what it feels like to be on the other side, by holding that space more and more, you have no real foundation to shift into it more and more, or feeling the confidence to do so. So be gentle with yourself. It takes time. It could daily application. You got a lot of time now till we go back to work or whatever we're going to do. Even if you do 5 minutes a day calling the violet flame, which I'll show you how to do in the next video, and you just stay with that, you'll be great. You know what I mean? You'll find more and more that you'll feel better and better, and then it will lead to more and more openings and more things. But don't become an energy junkie. Allow it to flow through you as it's going to flow, and then go about your daily business. Allow it to flow through you as it's going to flow, and go about your daily business. When I do the next video, I will put a link to my introductory video of how to deal with the energies, which also is a good thing to watch if you have 20 or so minutes. That was channeled, that really explains how to do it and why. Like, I guess for 2011. I'm going to do an updated version now in the situation we're in. So I think I talked enough. I hope you stuck with me. I hope you understand, get a basic overview sense of all what I'm trying to do, what we're all dealing with. And I know I threw a lot at you. So again, you have my website, ascensionlightsource.com. There's tons of videos, tons of explanations, interviews. You can scroll through it, read through it, and to help you if you want. But just know that the violet flame particularly is what is important in transmuting karma, is the aspect of source energy that allows us to transmute karma at a cellular level. It works at the cellular level, help us raise our vibration, which prevents and ameliorates and dissolves dis-ease and also negative karma. So it's very important to invoke that, particularly during a time like this of the COVID virus, which is just as important as, I take vitamin D3, C, astragalus, licorice root, lion's mane, taking all this mushroom, turkey tail, all this supplement stuff to help me in the physical plane, because the COVID's already manifested, to help myself stay strong and immune. But I'm also doing the spiritual too. So you can do both and marry both. And simple. And if you stick with me, I promise you, it's a simple, easy, effortless way. We don't believe it should be this easy, but it is easy. In fact, the easier the better, as long as your intention is impure and your integrity in application is there. Easier the better. You don't need, the echoes in your brain of the old way. You don't need all this ritual. You don't need all this invocation over and over and over and over again. I am presence, please be present. It's there. In fact, I'm going to leave you with this. Take a deep life force breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just still yourself for a moment and say to yourself, I am presence, please be present. I am presence, please be present. I am presence, please be present. And just continue to breathe easily and effortlessly, and see if you feel or experience anything. Tingling sensation, a warmth around the heart area, a smile coming to your face for no reason. And if you feel nothing, that's perfectly fine. It's still working. Eventually it will drop in. And with that, have a great day. Stay safe. Follow science, not Trump. And I hope you will share this video, and I hope you will come back and see the other 2 videos on the violet flame. And you will be able, by the 3rd one, to daily call it in and help you in a great way. God bless.